So excited that you could join us. It sounds like we have got a lot of people who registered for this webinar. Fascinating information that we are going to be learning today. So as everyone is coming in here, just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, introductions. My name is Jamie Budnick. I am a CPACO with PAC, and I am on the board, and I am super happy to be the, newly appointed host of these webinars going forward. So very excited to be able to spend this time with you and bringing this wonderful educational information to everyone that is interested. So we are going to be going through our presentation today. We have Alyson Fisher. She's a pet care expert with Ginger, and she's going to be speaking on the ecosystem of a pet resort. I'm super excited about this presentation. So wanted to let you all know that, generally we're going to stay muted for this presentation. She's got a lot of excellent information for us. But if you have any questions as we're going, if you could just go to the chat feature, post your questions there. I'm going to be monitoring those during her presentation, and she'll have some specific points where she will stop and then ask for any questions, and I'll make sure I bring those forward. So just so everybody knows, make sure that you put any questions during the presentation in the chat. Looks like we have some more people coming in, but just have a little bit of information here that I wanted to share with you about PAC. I know some of you, of course, are in the PAC already, and some people are interested in possibly joining. So I wanted to explain a wee bit more what the Professional Animal Care Certification Council is about. So for those of you that don't know us, we have a very powerful mission. So of course, bringing independent testing and certification to the pet care industry. Now, I know a lot of people wonder truly, what does that mean? We know of all of those stories out there of things that are happening. Some of the things that we hear about the pet care industry, what's happening in other facilities, in the in-home environment. There are a lot of issues within our industry, and there is no standardization within the industry. So PAC's mission is to really step into that gap and bring that independent testing and certification and awareness to our industry and also to pet parents in general. The PAC certification is a 3-year certification. There is continuing education that is necessary, and it is there to bridge the gap, to show that there is standardization, that there is supposed to be a definition of what humane care is within the pet care industry. So our core values, of course, humane pet care, compassionate care to all, security, safety, well-being, definitely upholding do no harm, and ensuring that every animal is well cared for and arrives back home safely. We have definitely a focused value on animal welfare, and then we do have a very stringent code of ethics that everyone has to uphold. Now, why third-party certification? This is really a question across the industry. If you think about it, there are other parts of the pet care industry, like with training, that there is already third-party certification, but in the actual pet care space, there has not been until PAC. So if you think about your certification levels, most people are very aware of a second-party certification, which is where we provide you the education and then we test you on that education. Whereas third-party certification, you are being tested on your knowledge. You're not being taught what you need to know. You are being tested on your body of knowledge and experience already. That is why PAC is so important, because we aren't there to educate you. We are there to certify that you know what you are doing and you're able to uphold these standards of pet care. We do have 3 certification levels. As I mentioned, I'm a CPACO, which is the Certified Professional Animal Care Operator. We do additionally have manager levels and provider levels. I personally just sat for my provider level testing also, so I'm waiting to hear back the results from that. It is very, of course, mentioned a bit why it's so important for your pet business to really stand in this space and uphold certification. Absolutely. It does give you a competitive edge. PAC is really focused lately on making sure that the pet parent market really understands how important this certification is, and sharing that with all of our certified professionals. It shows that you are really committed to excellence and quality at your facility. And building employee confidence. I really do like this one, the ability to bring some of your employees on as providers and elevating them to that level. That is really a career builder for them additionally. And then building a trust with your pet parents, knowing that they have chosen the right place to be at, that are upholding these standards of PAC. Just wanted to share these exam dates for you guys before we get started. Of course, we have finished all of our exam windows for 23, but if you are looking at joining the PAC here in 2024, we have 3 opportunities on the books for you: March, June, and November. And we do also have a wonderful study group at PAC Study Group on Facebook. So keep those dates in mind. And other than that, I am going to go ahead and bring Alyson up here for y'all. Hey there, Alyson. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, let me get off mute before I always do that. I start talking and I'm on mute. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second while I get here into presentation mode. I think you should be able to see that now. So thank you so much for having me. This is maybe my second or third, might be my third webinar with PAC. I did a grooming one quite some time ago, and then I am super excited to present this one. If you were in Hershey a few weeks back, I presented something similar to this and had great feedback on it. So super excited to present today. Really quick background on me. I had a previous life. I think we all had a previous life before animal care, right? Previous life, I was doing international project management, lots of really cool things, but was traveling like 200 days a year and had some interest in pet care. I was working in rescue when I had spare time. And long story short, I purchased my resort. We had 1 location with 3 employees about 7 years ago. Today we have 3 locations and we're creeping up on 60 employees. So I had some cool success with that. About almost a year and a half ago, I sort of accidentally took a job working with Ginger because I love Ginger so much. I had brought it into my original facility. I attribute a lot of growth to what the software brought to me, what the community of people that are using Ginger brought to me. And so today I lead our customer success division, where we are helping facilities use Ginger in the best way possible, and that is through optimizing their resources and those kinds of things. So just a little quick background to say, I have both sides of the fence, understanding working in the pet care world day to day for sure, and then also working with Ginger. So we'll dive right in. I think this is a pretty good topic for most people, no matter whether you're a single operator or you have a big resort with lots of offerings. This really can apply to you, and I will invite you while we're talking today to think about it from the standpoint of your own facility. So think about these scenarios as we go through here. We're really going to spend some time today talking about analyzing your ecosystem. I coined this phrase. I didn't coin the phrase, but I coined it within our environment and our resorts to just think about our system as an ecosystem. I want to be a one-stop shop for everything pet care other than veterinary service. And we've really found ways to do that and maximize the offerings for our customers. So today we're going to talk about mapping your facility's ecosystem, identifying points of entry. I think it's really important from a standpoint of analyzing. And I know when I say analyzing, it's hard to even think about that when you're scooping poop and taking care of the pets and feeding and medicating and cleaning the kennels and worrying about respiratory illness and all the things. It's so difficult to actually work on your business. So that's what we're putting on our working on our business hat today, and understanding how are our customers finding us? Who are the customers that are spending money with us? We're going to talk about the 80-20 rule and what that tells us about our customers. We're going to think about our current offerings and identify potential new services. That seems to be one of the most popular slides from this presentation, and then talk about ways we can market those services. So moving on, I have this quote in here twice. Take a screenshot of it, think about it, know it. No one knows your product like you know your product. I think as owners, we think to ourselves, well, of course, Sally knows that we groom, even though we mostly board. And most of the time they don't actually know, right? So we are in our ecosystem. We know every piece of our ecosystem very well. And not everybody knows that because they may be entering your business in one way and not know all the services that you have available. So no one knows your product like you do. I'd like you to think about your facility as an ecosystem. And maybe you don't even own a facility. Maybe you don't do in-home service. Maybe you don't do training. Maybe you don't do daycare. That's fine. Even if you are one tiny little circle, so one groomer, you still have an ecosystem of service, right? You still have an entry point. Maybe they wander in off the street for a nail trim, or they come in because their dog has fleas, or they come in because their dog has a really interesting haircut and they heard from their friend that you do a great job. So no matter what, you still have an ecosystem, whether you offer multiple services or not. So let's start by thinking of it that way. And let's examine what you actually offer, right? So even though it is an ecosystem and you offer boarding, you don't want to just say to someone that asks, what do you do, that you offer boarding, because it's not just boarding, right? It's pet care, it's walking the dogs, it's medicating the dogs, it's feeding the dogs. Maybe you have multiple options in your boarding area. So start thinking about your ecosystem and expanding it for every single thing that you do for your pet, because, or for the pets, because those are the things that you have to talk about to the owners. This is the reason why you are dumbfounded when you find out that your best friend's best friend doesn't know that you offer grooming, because you've mostly been a boarding facility, right? It's because they entered in one point and you are either not communicating well with them or they're not paying attention, that you actually have all kinds of other services that are available. The guy that walks in once every 6 weeks in a grooming facility to get a nail clip might not know that they actually offer boarding too, because they only have 6 kennels in the back or something along those lines. So be thinking about what your facility does or what your business does and make sure that that is detailed. I really encourage you to draw a map of what you're doing and understand every single service. And then figure out how they enter, right? So find out how they come into there and then watch that customer journey. And we're going to do that in a couple of slides coming up, but watch the journey of that customer when they come in for that groom, and then see, do they start using those other services in your ecosystem? And if they do, great. You're probably hooking them and they're staying with you. But if they're not, why? Are you not talking about it? Are you not talking about your other services? Are they unaware? Are they using services elsewhere? These are really important analytical questions to ask yourself. So as that relates to thinking about where they enter your business, this is a really good way that I've made a lot of choices in my business. And that is that 80% of the outcomes come from 20% of the inputs. So Pareto's principle, 20% of your customers are 80% of your revenue, right? So 80% of the money that you're making is coming from 20% of your customers. Find ways to understand those sticky customers that are coming back to you time and time again, or the ones that are talking about you and telling all of their friends. What services are they using within your business? And how can you maximize and grow on that? So in order to do that, I'm going to give you some meat and potatoes. I always hate when I attend talks and presentations like this and I don't walk away with something concrete of like, how do you do this, right? So in this case, of course, I use Ginger software. So there's lots of tools for me, but let's analyze top spenders. So top customers for me. I pulled one of my top spender reports and I look at this very consistently when I'm trying to make choices about services that I'm going to offer in my business. Tyler and Alicia, for example, have spent $5,700 with me this year. And this report is a few weeks old, but $5,700 they've spent in my facility this year. Davin and Dave, greatest couple name ever, by the way, have spent $2,300, but look at the number of times they've been here. So Tyler and Alicia have been in the building 18 times this year. Davin and Dave have been in the facility 48 times this year, but they're spending a lot less. Most of us are way too busy to even acknowledge this data and say, why is this, right? Like, why are Davin and Dave in the building so many times and their ticket price or their spend is so much less versus Tyler and Alicia, who are here 18 times in a year, but spending quite a bit more money. So we can look into this and say, okay, clearly Tyler and Alicia are boarding with us. So their entry point into my ecosystem is they're coming in and boarding. So I need to ask myself then, am I doing a good job of advertising that I also have grooming? If you click into some of these, which we won't today for the sake of time, if I click into these, I will be able to see that they are adding grooming on every once in a while, but I'm never seeing them. So I never see them for daycare. I'm not seeing them for individual grooming. So are they going somewhere else for grooming when their pet is not in my care? They're not using us for, I don't see retail checkouts. They don't use us for anything else other than boarding. So this might give me a great opportunity to figure out how to cross advertise some of the other services that we offer. Same situation here. So here are Davin and Dave's details, and this is what we expect, right? So they did have a recent boarding with us, but what are they using us for mostly? Daycare. Of course, that makes sense. So they're coming to us multiple times per month, and they're mostly using daycare, but look, they added on grooming here. Would they have had the opportunity to train? Would they have had the opportunity to know that we also do waste removal service where we can come and scoop poop from their house? These are the things that I'm going to be asking myself of, okay, those are two top spenders, right? Tyler and Alicia are spending $5,000+ with me, and I want to look at what they're doing and build my ecosystem off of services that might be attractive to them. Same thing with, it seems silly, but the same thing with Davin and Dave. I'm seeing them 48 times per year. So at least almost once a week or almost once a week. So what can I be doing to advertise services to them to make sure that they know everything that our ecosystem has to offer? So once again, your ecosystem might look like this, but let's build off of that. I went too fast. So let's figure out how we can build off of these items. I have 3 scenarios here. I will just read them for the sake of talking through. So maybe the customer is coming into daycare every morning and the dog's crazy on the leash and coming through the front door kind of acting crazy. And the customer mentions to you that they're sorry they're acting crazy on a leash. That customer right there just told you what their need was, right? So they're coming into daycare every week or every day or every morning or whatever it is. And they're telling you multiple times that they're sorry that their pet is acting crazy on a leash. You should listen to that, right? Because you're seeing them consistently. And what kind of complimentary service can you offer? And day training might be one of those. Similar situation, and this happened in my own facility. It's one of my biggest successes in our training department. The customer came in for just an obedience class or a day training type of program, did very well. We send it home. You know, the pet was doing well when it left. The dog starts coming in for daycare or whatever, and they say she was doing so well, but I didn't keep up with it. And one of my director of training said, why don't we offer a maintenance training program? These owners are telling us that they know the dog has the ability to do well. And so why don't we offer a maintenance training program? We launched it and it is booked to the hills. We have so many dogs coming in every single week for maintenance training, and the owner loves it because they feel fulfilled that the dog can do what they know it can do, right? Whether they follow through with that at home or not is their choice. But we're sending a report card to go, look, we just walked Fluffy down to Home Depot and back, and they walked so well on a leash, and the customer feels happy that their dog can do that. Third scenario, just for the sake of getting through this slide, I know I'm going to be long on time, but customers coming through grooming is the biggest opportunity, I think, especially in a facility that offers all the services, grooming, daycare, boarding. They come in with the puppy that's wild and crazy, and they say, you know, they make the comments of he's so full of energy, he's, you know, whatever, he's crazy. The half day of daycare, huge opportunity. And in my own resort, actually, that's a big push for us, is for us to make sure our grooming customers know that we have all these other services. And while they're here, the pet could spend half a day in grooming and then go home, or it could spend half a day playing in our daycare and then go to grooming. And then from the daycare, we'll probably get them into some kind of training program, and lots of opportunities as far as that goes. It looks like we have a couple of questions maybe in the chat. Do I see that correctly?
Yeah, really, Amy had just asked about which report that was, and it looks like Nicole said customer spend report. Is that correct through Ginger?
That's right. Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
customer spend report is the one that I had pulled there, and then I just pulled the details from that specific owner to see their reservation history.
Great data to have, definitely. But yeah, that was the only one that was in there.
Okay, great. We'll keep going here. So let's go back to the thought scenarios. So here we've talked about potentially adding a day training program, potentially adding a maintenance training, or a half day of daycare. So that scenario that looked like this originally could turn into looking like this, right? And once again, I wish you could see me blocking my screen. Even if you're a single groomer, circle that off and look at all of the things that you offer as a groomer. Look at all of the things, if you're a trainer, that you're offering, but also figure out how those all can intertwine with each other and create that circle of the ecosystem that we looked at the beginning. The other thing that I think is important to acknowledge as industry professionals is setting the expectation for consumers of our product, right? I talked to tons of facility owners, and some are over here charging for everything. Some are including everything, like you pay for boarding and you're getting all the extras and all the fluff and those kinds of things. And I think it's interesting to understand, like, us setting the expectation that maybe not everything is free, or maybe you do need to train. Maybe the pet is coming in for daycare and they're just wild and crazy and not doing well in social. Maybe the expectation is, hey, we need your dog to go into training, and as a result, the dog will do better in daycare, and there is a symbiotic relationship there as well. So I would really, really encourage you to look at every single service that you offer and break it down or break it out as far as you possibly can, so that you actually know what you're offering. It will also be a great reminder for you and for your employees to talk about your services. Once again, talking about your services until you're blue in the face, because not everyone knows that that's an option. Your boarding people may have always been in a standard kennel, but maybe you have a premium and they didn't know. And in fact, that situation happened to me not so long ago. I have a client that's been coming since the day I bought the facility. And one day I don't know what she heard or something in our lobby, and she said, "You offer a premium option?" And which is not called premium, but I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "How did I not know?" And it's amazing. I mean, she's in our facility 25, 30 times a year. It's on the menu panel, it's on all of the presentations, but how did she not know? She didn't, because she had her blinders on, and that's fine. She was there for a specific service, but many, many times the customers just are not educated in what you're offering. So really important for you to know it, because then you can communicate it clearly with your customers. Do you know your numbers? So we can add all of these fun things, and we can put add-ons, and we can have all kinds of additional services, but the important part is to understand if it's successful for you or not. So really important as far as identifying entry points is to know where the dollars are being spent, right? So many people, so this is the sales receipt report in Ginger, and it's just a demo, just a bunch of random numbers that I've put in here. But do you know where all of your revenue streams come from? I see a lot of Ginger apps and a lot of reports out there where it might say $5,000 here, but I can't tell at a glance what categories those are coming in on. So super important for you to know what percentages. So in this case, and obviously this isn't really a real scenario, but in this case, 31% of your revenue is coming from training. So going back to that 80-20 rule, it would tell us that in this case, 34% is our highest. We should look at those daycare clients, because they're paying the biggest chunk of our revenue, and we should say, how can we serve them better? What add-ons are available? Those are the ones that are engaged the most and spending the most dollars with us. So let's dive into that a little deeper and see how we can maximize. Here's some add-on service options for everyone. These are pretty popular slides, but these are some of the options and things that we see in Ginger that other resorts and other facilities are doing as options for these categories. I want to emphasize that don't dive in and try to do every single thing at once. It will overwhelm you and your staff and your customers, but lots of little options that are available. Big ones for groomers, adding that half day of daycare. For boarding, if you don't groom, you should groom. Add a bath. Every single customer will want to do that because they want their pet to come home clean. We see a lot of resorts at Ginger that require the customer to pay for an exit bath with a certain number of days, right? If the pet boards more than 4 days, they're requiring the customer to pay for an exit bath. If you're not offering that, you're missing out on revenue. Sunday brunch is one my team brought to me, and I thought, no way, we're going to sell Sunday brunch. People love it. It is a frozen yogurt with like 5 or 6 blueberries on top of it, and it's $10, and people add it on like crazy because they go, well, I want my pet to have Sunday brunch, right? So lots of add-on options there. I have one more slide I'll switch over. These are some more add-on type of options that we see a lot. I see a lot that I use, lots of various options, and all of these, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Ginger can handle managing all of these. Okay. So do not be afraid to experiment. This is my biggest thing. So you've got to know your numbers. You've got to know where they're coming into your ecosystem, and you have to be able to experiment. The thing that I always tell people is, I think there's hesitation in taking risk of saying, no one's going to buy Sunday brunch, right? If you slap Sunday brunch on your menu, if you add it to your customer portal as an option for your customers to book, right? If you're in Ginger, you have a customer portal where they can book. If you add it there and no one's buying it, then don't worry about removing it because no one was buying it anyway. They're not going to miss it, right? So don't be afraid to experiment, but if you're going to experiment, know how to test it, right? Know how to see the success of those services. And these next couple of slides I took from a previous presentation I've done because I just think they're so good. So if you've seen it before, just bear with me. But this report to the right is basically a breakdown of add-on services. And so in this example, and I've used this before again, there's 122 grooming services performed in 1 week period. If the grooming department has 4 stations and operates 6 days a week, that's only 5.08 dogs per table, right? This might lead us to change our procedures so that we can increase the number of grooms. The same calculation could be done with any of these add-on services that you see here, but it tells you, are you selling a lot, right? So Frozen Kong would be a fine example here too. I could put that together where how many boarding nights did you have over a period of time? Maybe we could use a week as an example. And if you only sold 5 Frozen Kongs, but you had 75 boarding nights, you would see that your percent is very low of the number of Frozen Kongs you're selling. You either need to advertise the Frozen Kong better, or you need to take it off of your menu, or you need to figure out a way to get that in front of your customers. So understanding those items, and then understanding, are they a success or are they a failure? Are you making money? Are you not? And if they're not, cut your losses and move on. Moving over to another example. So during the same week, so the same example we had before, of those 122 appointments, 18 of those were half day of groom. What does that tell us? The percent of half day daycare with grooming is super, super low in this scenario. So what can you do to talk about it more, to advertise it more, and to try to push that, right? You probably already have daycare in your facility because you're offering a half day of daycare. So it's not costing you anything to have it as an option. So there's no cost associated with it to cut necessarily. All you really have is the ability to drive your revenue there if you do a better job of advertising it and showing that value to your customer. So you can experiment, but you have to know your numbers and be able to pull that. If you're wondering, this is a report that comes out of Ginger. You can have emailed to you every week. There's a setting and user permissions to be sure that you have that report coming. What have we learned from this? Never stop talking about your services. I think this is super important once again. And I wanted to touch a little bit on marketing before we get to questions. And the marketing piece is really just understanding how to market. So we just talked about reporting. You have to use the reporting in order to drive your marketing, period. So the customer spend report that Amy was asking about, that I can filter that customer spend report for the top 50 spenders, or I can say anyone that has spent over $5,000. I can pull out that report, and that can directly connect to your marketing within Ginger. And on any software, you should be able to have a top spender report. But in Ginger specifically, it can connect to your marketing platform, where we can say, okay, I'm sending a free day of daycare to every person who spent over $5,000. Or in our case, we launched a waste removal service. So we have vans that drive around and scoop poop out of people's front and backyards. And so we know that that was a really, that's a luxury service, frankly. And so we started a soft launch of any customer that had spent over $3,500 with us in that year, because we feel like that's a pretty higher price point. And we started by just advertising through them. We pulled a report, we sent that marketing mail to say, hey, we're offering this service. It grew like wildfire. We now have vans driving around scooping people's poop every day, and it's a great revenue stream for us. But we would not have known that was an option if we hadn't listened to what our customers were saying and then figured out a way to market correctly. Anecdotal marketing, super important. So hearing that your customers don't know about your service. The example I have here is, I have a friend, I mean, I'm not a great close friend, but a person I've known for many, many years. And I saw on Facebook, they said, does anybody know a good groomer in the area? Ugh, shot to my heart that how did she not know that we groom? And then I'm thinking, well, maybe she thinks we're bad groomers. So I'm immediately looking her up in our system. Her dog had boarded with us twice, but never had been groomed. And I'm thinking, like, oh my gosh, did we do something wrong? Is she not coming back to us? So I sent her a message and said, hey, just so you know, we have 9 groomers. And she was like, oh my God, I had no idea you groom. So she had boarded her dog in our facility 2 different times. She knew me personally and had no clue that we groomed. I got a dog from that. I got a customer from that. And so those anecdotal stories, like, they have value. And I would encourage you to be hearing like, oh, I didn't know that you did X, Y, and Z, and figure out why and how you can be better at marketing. And then targeting customers to your new offering. So once again, figuring out those entry points and figuring out those expanded options, right? They come into you for boarding, and all of a sudden now you know and understand your ecosystem because you've mapped it, which you're going to do after this presentation, I'm sure. And you can say, okay, they come in through boarding, and now you can start talking about other options that are available. They come in through boarding and the dog is always a trouble dog, and you're having to call them and go, you know, Hank was humping again, or Hank was being too pushy in group. Maybe you send a report card home with a suggestion of, hey, next time you go on vacation, we do have a board and train program, and that can just really snowball from there. So that is what I have for you today. Any questions I'm happy to take. I'll leave this up here. If you're not a Ginger user, of course, we would love for you to come and take a look at Ginger, because there's just a lot of really great tools there. You can use that QR code to snag a demo with us. We'd be happy to demo. And then if there's any questions, I'm happy to take those. Maybe.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye in here. I don't see any questions. We'll wait just a minute here, but I did have a comment. You know, certainly I love, I'm a data person, I'm a systems person. I love whenever you can pull reports. So just amazing that Ginger has so many different options with that, because I know that's what many of us look for. And, you know, I love the idea of being able to reach out to your current clients and mention that to them. And, you know, email marketing, that is such a great opportunity, especially when you have those anecdotal stories, to, you know, turn it actually into a messaging story that you can send out, like a success story of, you know, here's what came in. We didn't know that they didn't know, and this was the result. So those kinds of things are great to rework into that kind of an email story for your email marketing. That's usually how we get the data out to our people, is the weekly emails that we send out. Conversational, relational.
Exactly. It is so, oh my gosh, it is so difficult to grab people's attention these days, right? Like we're just so inundated with digital everything. And I think
Yes.
it's tough. So being strategic with your communication and having those reportings are just super important. So
Yeah. And that's great to hear how you started that entire new service line of waste removal. And it took like,
wow.
because you had the relationship built with people, you
Mhm.
were able to get that out to them. And
Yep.
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a while. If you asked me 15 years ago if I would be having 2 vans driving around 3 days a week scooping poop, I would have told you we're insane. But the pet care world is so wild, isn't it? It's just awesome.
Yeah, everybody is more service oriented. We tried that about a decade ago and it just wasn't really a great takeoff at that point, but might be something to reconsider.
Yeah, something to think about. It definitely it complements the service for sure. So
It does.
well,
It
okay.
does. We'll wait here and see if there are any other questions.
Okay.
It's a little quiet in this group.
I know usually we have a lot more questions than that. I'm gonna back up. I think I will back this slide. Well, maybe I'll back this slide deck up a little to that first slide just to give everybody step by step. Maybe they'll grab this as a homework assignment just to kind of think about analyzing your ecosystem. And this is a good one to grab a screenshot of if you're interested in doing some homework after this for sure.
Yes, it'd be interesting to know how many people here actually use Pareto's principle in their own pet businesses. When was the last time you did pull your, client revenue by client and separate it out? It's always fascinating. It's my own business is not a perfect 80-20, but the top 20% of clients are about 71%. So it's like so close. It's always fun to see how close that is, but very relevant. And of course, finding out exactly what that top 20% holds as their values and how you can really adjust what you're doing to attract more of those amazing top 20%.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
Great stuff.
Someone said great presentation. Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, I know.